We begin our journey on the ancient road into Aberdeen at the Bridge of Dee. This current bridge dates back to medieval times, being completed in 1527, although a previous crossing is known to have preceded it. The bridge was widened in the 1800s. Previously, it was only 14 feet wide. As we cross, we glimpse landmarks in the distance, which we will pass later, and a stunning view of the banks of the Dee below. On the other side, we take the set of steps down to the riverbank. We're initially taking the footpath by the riverbank on our journey. Riverside Drive and Holborn Street also lead into town and pose the first decision to be made of which route is the most authentic to take along current streets. Holborn Street wasn't laid out until 1796, and this 1899 Ordnance Survey map shows a Victorian boating pond where Riverside Drive is now. The route we're taking follows the original road around the boating pond quite closely. Unfortunately, the oldest maps either don't extend as far south as the Bridge of Dee, or aren't accurate enough to plot the authentic route as confidently as we will be able to later once we reach the inner parts of the city. This is a good time to take a look at the route for our journey and the maps I've used to plot the route. Everything is referenced over a current satellite image of the city. Many towns in Scotland weren't mapped until the late 18th or early 19th century, but we're lucky that James Gordon produced a plan of the new and old towns of Aberdeen in 1661 following his famous plan of Edinburgh. As we can see, these older maps don't quite align perfectly with the benefit of modern sources to compare, but I think they're very impressive for the time. We also have the survey of Old and New Aberdeen by Jean W. Paterson from 1746. Our next reference is the Roy Military Survey of the Highlands from 1752. Neither this map or the last align quite as well as Parson Gordon's, but this one shows both north and south roads clearly. Both give us useful information for later in our trip, showing the Brig of Balgownie as the dawn crossing of its day. The Alexandrov Mill Map of 1789 aligns impressively onto a modern map. This map doesn't extend to the Bridge of Dee, but shows that Holborn Street did not exist at this time, and marks the Hardgate Road as the route to the Bridge of Dee. The other road coming up from the south stands where Broomhill Road is today, and is marked as the road from Braemar. The plan produced for the 1832 Great Reform Act, which gave Aberdeen its first Member of Parliament in the House of Commons, surprisingly doesn't align quite as well as the earlier Alexander Mill Map. This is particularly noticeable at this north end of the map. The Brig of Balgownie here is marked Bridge of Dawn, and deviates significantly southeast from its true position, as does the course of the river. The 1899 Ordnance Survey shows Aberdeen in the Victorian era, and aligned with the modern map very easily. And finally, to show us some more recent changes when we get to the city centre, the 1955 Ordnance Survey map will assist us. The footpath takes us along the riverbank, and we continue straight along. At the underpass, we want to divert from the main path onto the nondescript dirt path that continues into the trees. We're going to take the steps to the left here, passing Ruthriestone Bridge. It crosses the Ruthriestone Burn and was originally part of the route into Aberdeen, made redundant after Holborn Street was laid out. We will not be crossing it today, as it was moved from its original position in 1923. There's an interesting Latin inscription on a plaque visible as you cross. I'm not going to try to read it, but it roughly translates as, "The Council of Aberdeen raised this bridge with funds from the Dee Bridge, built in 1693. The top of the steps brings us to the junction with Ruthriestone Road, where we'll turn right, continuing along Riverside Drive, until we reach the junction with Riverside Terrace. We need to take a left here, but we shouldn't have to. It looks like between the penning of the Great Reform 1832 map and the later Ordnance Survey map, someone went and built a house on the original path. Now we turn right into Crathay Gardens. This marks the first we see this route referred to as the Hardgate. The Dark Dictionary defines gate as a way or route. The Scottish National Dictionary further defines it as a road or path, and the hard part probably referring to the road's composition as more substantial than a muddy country lane. The route will continue to be referred to as the Hardgate in various maps from here until we get close to the site of the Justice Mills. Here we pass under the footpath of the Deeside Way. The embankment at either side was constructed for the Deeside Railway, opened in 1853. As we approach Bloomfield Road, we notice a slight deviation from our 1789 Alexandrov Mill Map from our modern route. As you can see, the original road curves in an easterly direction briefly before coming back into line with the modern road. Interestingly, this lane exists today in roughly the same spot, curving around the block of houses in the same fashion as the original road. An opening in the building to the rear, where a shed resides now, also lines up with the original route. We continue towards the top of Fonthill Road, where Broomhill Road meets the Hardgate. This area on the Alexandrov Mill Map shows a cluster of buildings. It looks like a village existed here at the Hardgate intersection. On this junction just outside the library, we encounter our first boundary stone. These mark the historic borough of Aberdeen and the Freedom Lands, which consist of the land given to Aberdeen by Robert the Bruce, along with his charter, and other lands purchased by the city. They extend out almost as far as West Hill. This stone is 2 ABD and dates back to at least 1698. We continue through the ancient village. We can see the trees of Bonaccord Centre Gardens in the distance. Reaching Willowbank Road, we are very close to the site of Aberdeen's own distillery. It would have occupied the entire block in front of us where the contemporary student accommodation now stands, all the way down the hill and as far west as Holborn Street. We continue down the Brae. The granite building at the end of the block is likely the last remaining building from the distillery. The distillery that stood in this area dates back to 1785, where it started life as a brewery. The Bonaccord distillery absorbed assets from the adjacent Union Glen distillery in 1855 and became one of the largest Highland distilleries in Scotland, producing 300,000 gallons of product annually. Cock of the North was the brand it sold under. By 1910, when it closed, it was in the ownership of Daloane Talisker. The Cock of the North brand name lives on today as a locally produced liqueur. Not many images of the old distillery exist, but here it can be seen in the background from the junction of Holborn Street and Justice Mill Lane at the top of Justice Mill Brae. Just opposite this building, we pass another marchstone. This one is marked 1 CR ABD, one of the inner marchstones. A stone dates here from 1525, however this one probably replaced it in the 18th century. We now continue up past Strawberry Bank Parade, approaching the site of the Battle of Aberdeen. The 1644 Battle of Aberdeen happened in this area. In Samuel Gardner's book, History of the Great Civil War 1642 to 1649, he gives us a plan of the battle, which we can overlay on Alexander Milne's map, as this was used as the basis for his plan. Aberdeen was under control of the Covenanter government of Scotland at the time. Forces loyal to King Charles I, under command of James Graham, the first Marquess of Montrose, were making their way north following a victory at the Battle of Tippermuir near Perth. This campaign was part of the Wars of the Three Kingdoms. Montrose's goal was to force the government to recall forces from England and Ireland to assist in an ultimate victory for the crown. On the 13th of September, Montrose's more experienced and numerous army defeated the local forces and sacked the city. Montrose's victory, however, had little strategic significance in the long term, and his reputation following the sacking of Aberdeen and Perth frustrated attempts to recruit forces to his cause. In 1646, Charles I ultimately surrendered to the Scottish Covenanter army. Montrose was eventually captured and hung in Edinburgh in 1650. If you'd like to learn more about the battle, there are links in the video description. Here, we can see the original line of the Covenanter forces, where most of the firefight took place, marked in blue, and the Royalist forces, marked in red. This event is also sometimes called the Battle of the Justice Mills due to its proximity to the mill. Marked in orange, we can see the upper mill buildings existed around where the foundry bar is now, and the lower mill buildings clustered around a body of water at the location of the Bonaccord Baths. Our route up Strawberry Bank Parade takes us through the site of the battle and onwards into Aberdeen's nightlife district. We pass the Crab Stane on our right, one final reminder of this bloody page of Aberdeen's history. We are now in Lang Stane Place, home to several late bars and nightclubs. In Scots, the word lang means long, and the word stane means stone. We approach D Street here, and at the back of Burger King on our left, we do indeed find a Lang Stane. Not much is known about this stone, unfortunately, but it's thought to have been part of a stone circle due to its design, and possibly used as a boundary stone during its life. We continue past the Stag Bar and the back of Aberdeen's famous Grill Bar. Windmill Brae marks our final approach toward the Green, the oldest known settlement in Aberdeen. We descend into the Denburn Valley, where the Denburn used to run. The bridge in front of us supports the street above called Bridge Street. We continue under it. The staired entryway to the Trinity Centre car park dates from the 18th century and marks the location of several crossings that have existed over the centuries, the last of which was an iron footbridge built to allow pedestrian passage over the railway station. The original crossing dates back to 1556. One of its contemporaries can be seen in this painting, which probably dates from the first half of the 19th century following construction of Union Bridge, which was completed in 1805. Today, when the car park is open, it can be used by pedestrians to cross the same route that would have been the original entry into Aberdeen from the south. If you'd like to know more, local historian Dr. Jane Brown has an excellent article on her blog which goes into more detail. It'll be linked in the video description. We have reached the other side of the burn. The burn now runs underneath the dual carriageway from Skene Square to Guild Street, hidden from view. We find ourselves under the Trinity Centre, flanked by its loading bays on the left and entrance to its car park on the right. We are now going to walk through some of the city's oldest streets before taking the original route out of the city to the north. We will start at the Green, possibly the oldest area of the city, appearing in records from 1273. The buildings in this area now, however, are relatively contemporary. In 1842, Archibald Simpson's famous New Market graced the area. This photo shows the impressive frontage on Market Street. This is the back of the building, taken in 1965. Archibald Simpson's New Market was demolished in 1971 to make way for a new utilitarian building, despite objection leading to a parliamentary inquiry, and hosted British Home Stores in its upper levels until 2016, when it was closed following BHS entering administration. Market traders presently occupy the lower floors, but at the time of writing, plans are lodged to demolish the current building, which will displace them. The market suffered a fire in 1882, but was rebuilt. This photo shows a new interior from 1965 from an elevated position, probably about street level in Union Street. In present day, we would be standing in the ground floor of BHS. We continue around the market and then take a right, heading down Exchange Street. Then through Trinity Lane. As the layout of this area has changed extensively, the original route would have cut across these lanes diagonally where buildings now stand. We enter Ship Row. This street follows the base of where St Catherine's Hill would have stood, and helps illustrate just how much the construction of Union Street changed the landscape in this area. Here we see our route and the location marked. Now we see our route plotted on the Parson-Gordon plan. Please remember that this map doesn't project accurately onto a modern map, so our plotted route misses the Bow Brig at the bottom left slightly. As you can see, we are hugging the perimeter of the hill as we change direction from east to north. Note the absence of Union Street. It's hard to imagine where it would lie on this map. St Catherine's Hill still exists on the Alexandrov Mill Map, so I'm going to overlay the streets of Aberdeen as they are today over it. The head of the hill is located roughly in the middle of where the Adelphi is now. This peak was flattened while other parts of the street were built up, like the top of Market Street, the bridge over Correction Wynd, and the south part of Backwynd, where the stairs to the green is now. The area on the west side of the hill, leading up to the Nether Kirk Gate, was known as Puchachyside, and is now almost completely entombed under Market Street and St Nicholas Square. William Cadenhead, the oldest independent whisky bottler in Scotland, has released a number of bottlings under the Puchachyside name to commemorate the area, as it would have been in close proximity to their first store at 46 Nether Kirk Gate. Sadly, neither it or the King Street premises where Chivas Regal was first blended are on our route. If you'd like to know more, I thoroughly encourage you to carry out your own research, perhaps at the Grill Bar, which we have already passed, or the St Macher Bar, which we will pass later, both of which have an excellent library. And so, Ship Row gives us the closest idea of what the original geography of the area may have been. We passed Provost Ross's house here, the second oldest dwelling in Aberdeen, with parts dating back to 1545. The oldest building in Aberdeen is St Macha's Cathedral. The towers date to 1440. We leave Ship Row and carry on to Broad Street. Broad Street is the home to Marischal College. It's the second largest granite building in the world, and rumoured to be Adolf Hitler's favourite building in the United Kingdom. Let's get rid of the scaffold. Marischal College was founded in 1593 by the Earl Marshal George Keith. It's thought that he established the college out of a personal rivalry with Sir Alexander Fraser, who had established a university in Fraserburgh the year beforehand. And the town was happy to give him the buildings of Greyfriars Monastery, where the college now stands, for this purpose, lest the neighbouring village of Old Aberdeen appear more grand as home to King's College, established in 1495, than the town itself. Construction of the buildings here today began in 1837 to plans by Archibald Simpson. The frontage we see here was completed as late as 1905. In front of the building proudly stands a statue of Robert the Bruce. This statue was paid for by the Aberdeen Common Good Fund, which was established thanks to the prosperity Aberdeen gained from its charter, which Bruce is depicted holding here. This charter was very valuable and assisted Aberdeen's prosperity greatly. It was granted after the people of Aberdeen sheltered Bruce when he was an outlaw. But a better tale exists in local legend for his generosity.
Sometime after Bruce's victory at the Battle of Barra, the citizens of Aberdeen rose up and, with a rallying cry of Bon Accord, stormed the castle. They seized it from the English in his name and ruthlessly put every last English soldier to the sword.
This tale is sadly unsupported in documentation, but the phrase Bon Accord lives on regardless in the city's motto. We continue on to the Gala Gate. This road takes us naturally uphill. We can even see Aberdeen City Library in the distance from here. A memorial sits here to Dr. Archibald Reith, who established the school which existed in this area in the late 1800s. The entire area was flattened for redevelopment in the 1960s. The memorial was saved from the site of Port Hill Sunday School. The road layout at what is colloquially known as the Mount Hula Roundabout is completely different from what was here previously. So we're staying as close as we can to the original route. Continuing down what is now Mount Hula Way, we will turn left when we come to King's Crescent. We continue along King's Crescent. Here we can see another of the boundary stones. This one is March Stone 62CR, one of the inner stones. We continue on to the Spittal. The house at the left here was featured on Channel 4's show Come Dine With Me in Series 5, Episode 2. Coming to the end of the Spittal, we are now about to enter Old Aberdeen. Entering Old Aberdeen, we approach the university campus for Aberdeen University. We're going to turn around briefly here so I can show you the elusive entrance to the site of the Snow Kirk. It's a small dirt path nestled in the corner of the car park at the entrance to the student accommodation. The Snow Kirk was a church beloved to the early residents of Old Aberdeen, demolished under controversy. I'll leave a link in the video description if you'd like to learn more. Only a graveyard exists at the site now. We're now passing the King's College building of Aberdeen University. The university was founded by Bishop Elphinstone in 1494, which is actually 1495 according to our modern calendar. It was the third university to be founded in Scotland and the fifth in Britain. Here we see the chapel, the oldest part of the university, and still in use as a chapel. We continue down High Street toward the old townhouse. The Macker Bar on the left is a very old public house, although the current interior only dates back to the 1960s. We reach the townhouse and outside it, the Market Cross. The only original part of this cross is the top, which may date to the 16th century. We take a right and head down Don Street. We cross Cheyenne Road and continue down Don Street. We pass the entrance to Seaton Park and turn left. There is a path in Seaton Park that runs parallel to this road for part of the distance. I think it would be quite hard to ascertain which route is more geographically accurate to the original. Seaton Park and this road, which skirts around its eastern perimeter, are marked in every map going all the way back to the Parson-Gordon plan, which has the area marked as the Bishop's Ward. As we are not even at the highest point of the hill, I feel that this road is probably more accurate to the original route than the lower footpath in the park. We pass the entrance to Hillhead student accommodation on the left and enter a small cluster of houses built beside the Brig of Balgownie. The brig itself was built in 1320 and renovated later in 1605. It gives beautiful views over the River Don on both sides. We have arrived at the other side of the river. Now the detail on our old maps begins to become scarce again, as it was at the beginning of our journey when we crossed the River Dee. The Paterson 1746 map shows the route splits here, with the westerly path splitting again, roughly in the spot where Scotsdown Road splits from Balgownie Road today. But this is where the map ends. We're relying almost solely on the Roy Military Survey, published only slightly later, to give us an idea of where these routes go. If we trace these paths, we will find the east path is the road to Ellon, while the west path takes us to Old Meldrum. Looking at Ordnance Survey maps, the Old Meldrum Road doesn't look like it has significantly deviated from its current route in modern times. Indeed, keeping in mind the age and accuracy of this map, it looks very close to the original road. In contrast, it's hard to find any trace of the route to Ellon documented on here in any later maps. It looks like this route would have followed the current day road through Cotton of Balgownie, continued down Balgownie Road, across Ellon Road continuing down Donmouth Crescent, turning left onto Links Road, and continuing through the golf club onwards north. Returning to the bridge, if we were to head towards Old Meldrum, instead of turning right through Cotton of Balgownie, we'd take these steps to Balgownie Road. Then turn right onto Scotsdown Road. From here, head straight on and just follow the signs all the way to Old Meldrum. And if you do, consider a tour of the Glengarry Distillery when you get there. Slàinte.